Test. Test. Where should I sit?
I think it's still catching there. It's not flying.
Test. How's that?
That's better, yeah.
That's good.
Do a mic check for Ricky. Mic check 1, 2.
Just say mic check for Ricky.
Mic check for Ricky.
Go ahead.
Okay.
that the commission approved a few months ago. And I would note that these districts are contiguous and they share ownership. And at the hearings, we presented similar, if not the same, evidence and proof with regard to the creation. And in light of that, I don't see any basis
That's
for
1 minute.
denial of this district. And unless there are any questions, I'll sit down and reserve the rest of my time.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Colleagues, any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
And next for the protestants, I believe we have County Judge Little.
Morning, Judge.
Good morning. Good to see you again. Commissioners, Chairman, thank you for having us today. Obviously, the TCEQ is tasked with the review of these MUD applications and the effects, to evaluate the effects that these MUDs have on the land. This creation is one of the many opportunities for governmental oversight. In Ellis County, as the Emergency Management Director, these high-density developments create issues with water quality, create issues with emergency response, ambulance service, sheriff deputies, all those things, damage to our public roads. The county is not opposed to development, but we want responsible development that addresses the impacts that are directly to the county. As Ellis County Judge, I represent my citizens, and we oppose the creation of this MUD district this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Colleagues, anything for the judge? Seeing nothing, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And next for the protestants, we have Kimberly Kelly.
Good morning, Ms. Kelly.
Morning. My name is Kimberly Kelly. I represent the city of Midlothian and Ellis County. My clients oppose the ALJ's recommendation to approve the application to create this MUD. Creating a development as a MUD is a very advantageous tool for a developer. They get to enhance the value and marketability of the land, and they're able to be reimbursed by the MUD for their costs. The MUDs also have a lot of power. The apparent function is to provide water and wastewater services, but granting this application is also creating a local governmental entity that can do things like condemn property, levy taxes, and employ law enforcement. These are big powers. A development can also obviously have negative impacts on the land and natural resources in the area if they're not planned, created, and governed correctly, particularly a proposed development of this size. The overall Highland Lakes project is projected to have a population on par with several of the bigger cities in Ellis County. And that's where this creation process before you comes in, and why the Texas legislature has adopted Texas Water Code section 54.021, which contains a lengthy list of factors that you as the commission must consider before creating a new governmental entity. Importantly, now is the time to consider the reasonableness of things like construction costs, future water, sewer, and tax rates, and the proposed district's effect on natural resources. The evaluation of these factors before creation is mandatory, and it should be a meaningful evaluation, because this does affect my client's citizens. A large development is going in their backyard, and the legislature has created a process to help ensure that it's done correctly, and this commission should meaningfully effectuate that. The developers carry the burden of proof here to show that all the required factors are met, and it shouldn't be able to be based on cursory or conclusory information. And here, the applicant has simply not carried their burden on several issues before this commission. There's substantial evidence in the record that the Highland Lakes developers did not offer a reasonable projection of construction costs. Setting aside whether those estimates can be preliminary or tentative, setting aside whether or not those costs have increased or decreased due to inflation or other economic factors, this report is problematic because it wholly fails to include some really important and frankly really expensive elements of the proposed construction. This report entirely leaves out some necessary costs like valves, fittings, off-site water lines, water distribution elements like storage tanks and pump stations, and inflation has nothing to do with providing a complete picture of their water and wastewater. The evidence shows that the projected costs for the elements of the major water and wastewater systems are underestimated by at least 50%. This 50% has a trickle-down effect that renders the tax, water, and sewer rates unreasonable. Further, many elements of the applicant's case related to the evaluation of this MUD's effects on the natural resources are just too conclusory. For instance, the applicant doesn't actually fully evaluate the district's effect on groundwater, but rather just essentially says they don't have to consider that because their source is surface water and it wouldn't be unusual effects. Similarly, they don't evaluate runoff and drainage, but rather have a conclusory statement that either this isn't going to be affected or where they're going to defer to local regulations. There's nothing else in the applicant's case that does provide an actual analysis, and the executive director was very clear that they stayed within the confines of the application and didn't look outside it. Therefore, the applicant did not meet its burden under the water code. The commission cannot fill in the applicant's gaps for them or take the applicant's word regarding these conclusory statements. The statute requires the TCEQ to provide more than just a high-level perfunctory analysis of what impacts this creation might have on the land and surrounding area, which includes my clients and their citizens. The city and county outline in their closing arguments and exceptions all of the reasons that this application should be denied. We urge the commission to meaningfully consider those. For these reasons, the city and county urge that this commission adopt their exceptions to the PFD and deny this application.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Colleagues, any questions? Thank you. Let's hear next from the Executive Director's Office. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning. Morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Harrison Malley of the Environmental Law Division. I am here today on behalf of the Executive Director, and with me is Justin Tack of the District Section. The ED recommends the Commission adopt the Administrative Law Judge's proposed order and create the district. In the proposal for decision, the ALJ concluded the applicant met its burden of proving the district's creation meets all applicable statutory and regulatory requirements. Therefore, the Commission should grant the petition and create the district. Thank you. We're here for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Malley. I have none. Any questions, colleagues? Let's hear next from Mr. Martinez. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Director. My name is Eli Martinez, and I'm with the Office of Public Interest Counsel for the record. We participated in the hearing, evaluated the evidence and arguments presented, and concluded that the evidentiary record supports the ALJ's finding that the project is feasible and practicable, necessary, and would be a benefit to the land to be included in the district. That the petition filed with the Commission was signed by a majority in value of the holders of title of the land within the proposed district, and that the applicant's request for road power complies with the requirements of the Texas Water Code. We therefore recommend that the Commission adopt the PFD and approve creation of FM 875 MUD of Ellis County. And thank you. We're available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. And we have, I guess, some time reserved for rebuttal. 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
So thank you again. And I did not mention during my introduction that during the hearing, I would like to thank the ALJ, who was very attentive and diligent during this process. I think that the contested mud creations are a pretty new animal at SOA. And so I think the ALJs have done a really good job of listening, paying attention, and educating themselves through the presentation of the evidence and through the witnesses. And so with that, I want to speak to some of the remarks that the county judge made. And a number of the issues that he stated that were concerns of the county are not issues that are before the commission today. The one that I did hear was water quality, and we can get to that. But the other items that he mentioned with regard to, I think, emergency services, traffic and things like that, those are within the county's purview, and they have the ability to address those, but that's not something that is considered before you under a mud creation. Then moving to the further remarks from the city of Midlothian and Ellis County, I agree that MUDs are a powerful tool for developers. And if we keep in mind that at this stage, it's a financing tool that allows the developer to finance its water, sewer, drainage, and roads, and then they move forward from that point. But the financing of this infrastructure is a really good tool, not just for the developer, but for the home buying consumer in the state of Texas, because the developer isn't putting all of this money out of pocket straight away, but financing it over 20 to 30 years, which lowers the price of the home for the buyer in Texas and gives a young couple or anyone who's buying a home the opportunity to have a really high quality home in a really high quality development that has good amenities for the family. And as she mentioned, the Highland development, it is envisioned to have all of those provisions for the consumer and for the families that may live there. The higher bar comes when the actual bonds are issued. And I think that we've discussed this before. At the point where a bond issue occurs, then there's another level of scrutiny. And that's when the staff is going to have, boots on the ground, people out there making sure that the infrastructure is in place and making sure that the developer has complied with all of the requirements under the statute and regulations that's required of it to do. And so here we're just creating the mud. At some point, there will be a larger level of review, but it is an important tool. And I think the legislature has recognized that in terms of this is something that's really good for Texas, especially when we're encouraging people to move here through corporate relocation and other things that people need a place to live. And I think that these are good. The legislature recognized a long time ago that this is something that's good for Texas, especially in the high growth areas that we're seeing now. I don't want to touch really on anything specifically other than the reasonableness of the construction costs. And we had a lot of evidence during the hearing about the
That's
time.
You
Okay.
can just finish your thought real quick.
Sure. There was a lot of evidence that those things were found to be reasonable as in relation to the tax rate and the construction cost versus the increase in house prices that we see now. And y'all have already addressed the groundwater issue. So I would just say this is comparable to the other Highland Lakes med that y'all decided.
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Okay, thank y'all.
Colleagues, I agree with the ALJ as well as the executive director's staff and public interest counsel that the petitioner has met its burden on all relevant issues. I also think that the allocation of transcript costs is appropriate. Commissioner Janeka.
I am in agreement and found no basis in the record for altering the ALJ's findings.
I'm also in agreement.
I have a motion. I move that we adopt the administrative law judge's proposed order.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 3 is the consideration of the application by Peter H. Schouten Sr. and Nova D. Schouten for new TIPD's permit number WQ 000538700. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument, but may ask questions. Anyone who has signed in will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, the two hearing requests on this item are from owners of property in close proximity to the proposed facility. And I agree with the executive director and OPIC that Mr. Carroll and Mr. Norris have met the procedural and substantive requirements to be entitled to a hearing. And I would refer the matter to SOA on the following issues: whether the draft permit adequately addresses potential nuisances, whether it will prevent groundwater contamination, whether it will prevent wastewater runoff, and whether it will be protective of air quality. And I would also include an ADR referral.
I would be in agreement with those.
Also in agreement.
Ready for a motion?
I'll offer that. I move that we grant the hearing requests of James Carrolls and Clifford Norris that we refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues. A, whether the draft permit contains sufficient provisions to prevent nuisance conditions, including odors and flies, in accordance with applicable TCEQ rules. B, whether the draft permit contains sufficient provisions to prevent groundwater contamination and wastewater runoff from the facility in accordance with applicable TCEQ rules. And C, whether the draft permit is adequately protective of air quality and human health in accordance with applicable TCEQ rules. I further move that we refer the matter to the Commission's alternative dispute resolution program to run concurrently with the SOA preliminary hearing scheduling efforts. And finally, that we set a hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until a proposal for decision is issued.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 4 is the consideration of the application by BL12 Holdings LLC for new TIPD's permit number WQ0016297001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument, but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, we have a single hearing request on this item. And again, I agree with the executive director and Office of Public Interest Counsel that we should grant the request. I believe the San Marcos River Foundation has met the procedural and substantive requirements to be entitled to contested case hearing. They have satisfied the requirements for associational standing based in part on the interests of its member, Mr. Banda. So I would refer the matter to SOA. I would include an ADR referral. And let me do this. Let me just read the issues that I've identified into a motion, and we can discuss it on the other side and take a vote if we're ready. Okay. All right. Colleagues, I move that we grant the hearing request of the San Marcos River Foundation, that we refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following issues: whether the draft permit is protective of water quality, including the protection of human health in accordance with applicable TCEQ regulations, including Texas Surface Water Quality Standards in 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 307. Whether the draft permit complies with applicable requirements to abate and control nuisance odors as set forth in 30 Texas Administrative Code, Section 309.13E. Whether the anti-degradation review complies with applicable TCEQ regulations, and whether the application substantially complied with applicable notice requirements. I further move that we refer the matter to the Commission's alternative dispute resolution program to run concurrently with SOA's scheduling process, and that we set a hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until the proposal for decision is issued.
That captures the issues that I found.
Yeah, I would second that motion.
All right, I believe we're ready for a vote. The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 5 is the consideration of the application by Landra Partners LLC for new TIPD's permit number WQ0016258001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument, but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, we have a single hearing request on this item. Mr. Moore expresses concerns about erosion and flooding, but not water quality. In my view, he's not expressed an interest within our jurisdiction on this application. And so I think we should deny the request. Commissioner Janeka,
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement.
I think we're ready for a motion.
I move that we deny the hearing request of Jeremy Moore, that we issue new TPDES permit number WQ0016258001 to Landra Partners LLC as recommended by the executive director, and that we adopt the executive director's response to comments.
Second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, we'll take the next item.
Item number 6 is the consideration of a resolution to appoint one nominee as a member of the Municipal Solid Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Council. And the Executive Director's staff is here to present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. My name is Anju Chalise of the Waste Permits Division. With me today virtually is Kathy Humphreys from the Environmental Law Division. We are here requesting the appointment of one new nominee to serve on the Municipal Solid Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Council. This advisory council is composed of 18 members who review municipal solid waste management policies and make recommendations to the Executive Director and Commission. In February 2024, 2 applications were received for 1 out of 3 specific qualifying positions. In your materials, you have a listing of the vacant position and a biographical information of the recommended applicant. Staff reviewed the application received to ensure the appointee meets statutory requirements for the selected position. Thank you for your consideration of this matter, and we are available to answer any question at this time.
Thank you. I have none. Seeing no other questions, Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak on this item?
No one has signed in.
Mr. Arthur, what says OPIC?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Garrett Arthur, TCEQ Public Interest Counsel. OPIC supports approval of the resolution as recommended by the ED.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to extend my thanks to members of the council for their service to the state. Our nominee, Ms. Alanis, also has a record of service to her community and to her city. I'm ready to move forward with the appointment.
I am as well, with one extra thread to pull on, and that's to ask our executive director staff if they would consider utilizing us as a resource to amplify the invitation. When next you do this, I noticed there's a few cities, a few levels of government that we have a space for that haven't yet expressed interest. I'm also grateful to our nominee, City of Goliad, stepping up. She's got great experience in one of the best planning commissions in the state, and we'd love to help echo the opportunity to join this when it comes time. And if I've worked with any city or county officials, I think would be a good addition. I'd love to offer my 2 cents, but just grateful for your effort on supporting this program.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, absolutely echo that, and thanks for the willingness to serve. So I move that we appoint Robin Alanis to the Municipal Solid Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Council as an elected official from a municipality with a population of fewer than 25,000 people to expire on August 31st, 2029.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
So item 7 is the consideration of a resolution setting out the responsibilities of the Commission, Executive Director, and TCEQ staff, and I will be presenting that motion today. For the record, I'm Mary Smith, the agency's General Counsel. The sunset legislation that was recently adopted during the previous legislative session for our agency amended the Water Code to require the agency to develop a policy that separates the policymaking responsibilities of the Commission and from the management responsibilities of the Executive Director and the Executive Director's staff. This resolution fulfills that directive by gathering the general governance directives in Chapter 5 of the Water Code into a single resolution and directing the ED to adopt a similar operating policy in her OPPs. The resolution generally discusses the role of the Commission to appoint the ED, the roles of the ED and the Commission in policy development, rulemaking, and development of the agency budget. It discusses the general authority of the ED and how the agency will handle communication between the ED and the commissioners. And the Office of General Counsel recommends adopting the resolution, and I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Seeing none, has anybody signed in to speak?
No.
Does the Executive Director's Office have a position on the resolution? I think they participated in its drafting.
They did.
Seeing none, Mr. Arthur?
OPIC has reviewed the proposed resolution setting responsibilities of the commission, ED, and ED staff, and we support adoption.
Thank you. I do too. I'm ready to move forward with the resolution. I would like to make a couple of observations though. And the first is that merely using the word policy doesn't implicate policy of the commission. Of course, major policy belongs to the legislature. The commission is responsible for gap filling policy to implement legislation. And then you have managerial or administrative policy that really belongs to ED staff. And that can be something like distributing how mail is distributed. So just a caveat that we not get hung up on the word policy. I also want to, as we distinguish managerial and policy-making roles in the agency, I just want to say that we do have an oversight. We commissioners have an oversight role. And so we have a strong interest in ensuring that the agency continues to be well managed, and we, as well as the commission's audit team, therefore have an integral role in managing this agency. Not doing the managing, but through oversight. So I better stop talking before I further muddy the waters, but just some thoughts, and I'm ready to move forward. Commissioner Janeka.
Very well said, Chairman. I entirely agree, and only wanted to thank the Sunset Commission staff and the review, the collective peek from above from our policymakers. The nudge to develop and adopt this formally, I think, is a good one. Always a good step in the right direction to clarify what could be muddy waters.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gonzalez. All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution setting out the responsibilities of the commission, executive director, and TCQ staff as recommended by the general counsel.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
That takes us to the enforcement docket, which is item 8 and items 10 through 22. Item 9 was continued by the Office of General Counsel yesterday, and the executive director is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Michael Parrish of the Enforcement Division. With me today are Melissa Cordell, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division, representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 8 and 10 through 22. The total assessed administrative penalties are $693,784, with $42,708 deferred, $548,002 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $103,074 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. I have none. Any questions, colleagues? Seeing none. Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak?
On items 8 and 13, there are individuals who are available for questions, but don't need to address the council or the commission.
Thank you. Mr. Arthur, what's the position of the Office of Public Interest Counsel?
OPIC supports adoption of these enforcement orders as presented by ED staff.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm ready to move forward.
I move that we adopt items 8 and 10 through 22 as recommended today by the executive director.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
That takes us to items 23 through 26, which are the quadrennial rule reviews for our 30 Texas Administrative Code, chapters 39, 50, 55, and 352. And the executive director's staff is here to present.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I am Gwen Rico with the General Law Division. Pending before you are items 23 through 26, the adopted rule reviews of 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 39, Public Notice, Chapter 50, Action on Applications and Other Authorizations, Chapter 55, Requests for Reconsideration and Contested Case Hearings, Public Comment, and Chapter 352, Coal Combustion Residuals Waste Management. As required by Texas Government Code Sections 2001.039, Executive Director staff conducted a rule review of these chapters to determine if the need for the rules within these chapters continue to exist. The proposed notices for the review of these chapters were published in the October 6, 2023 issue of the Texas Register with 30-day comment periods. No comments were received for these rule reviews. Based on the review of these chapters, the Executive Director has determined that the reasons for the rules in chapters 39, 50, 55, and 352 continue to exist, and changes to the rules identified as part of this review process will be addressed in separate rulemaking action in accordance with the Texas Administrative Procedure Act. In conclusion, we respectfully recommend approval of the adoption of the rule reviews of chapters 39, 50, 55, and 352. Additionally, staff requests authorization to make non-substantive revisions necessary to comply with the Texas Register requirements. Thank you. The project managers and staff attorneys assigned to these chapters are online with us to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rico. I have no questions. Any questions, colleagues? Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak?
No one has signed in.
Mr. Arthur?
OPIC agrees that the reasons for initially adopting the Chapter 39, 50, 55, and 352 rules continue to exist, and we support readoption of the rules in each of these chapters.
Thank you, colleagues. I do as well. I'm ready for a motion.
I move we adopt the rule reviews and readopt the rules in 30 Texas Administrative Code chapters 39, 50, 55, and 352 without amendment as recommended by the Executive Director.
Second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Ms. Smith? Let's call the next item.
Item 27 is our public comment session, and we don't have anyone currently signed in for the public comment session. We can unmute the line.
Let's unmute the line for just a moment. I'll note that I don't see anybody in the room heading for the microphone. Is there anybody on the line who would like to address the commission? All right, I think we can move along.
The commission will be meeting in closed session today in room 246 of the Texas Workforce Commission at, should we say 10 after 10? At 10:10, as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074, to take up and consider matters pursuant to items 28 through 31 as posted and noticed.
The time is 10:06. We are in recess.
Yeah, I work for Baker.
Testing. The commission met in room 246 of the Texas Workforce Commission for closed session from 10:10 a.m. until 10:20 a.m. on item numbers 29 through 31, as posted in notice pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074. No action was taken. This agenda stands adjourned and the time is 10:25.